For today's tutorial, we'll be making these beautiful little bags, right? Basically same pattern, different colors of thread, but you can see I pretty much use the same beads. They have a drawstring and they open up to a lined pouch, which is wonderful for makeup, jewelry. You can use it as a gift bag, depending on the color you make it, and depending on the type of lining you use. You can certainly use this as an evening bag or like a special occasion bag. I happen to be using linen as a lining for these bags today. However, you could use satin, you could use velvet. There's so many different linings that you can use in terms of fabric, which would actually dictate the use of this bag. It's beautiful. It can be dressed up or played down. So for example, I'm playing it down a bit with this linen fabric. But if I wanted to use it as a special occasion bag, like say I wanted to make sure all my bridesmaids had a matching bag to kind of help tie them all together, I might do this in a beautiful cream colored yarn or thread, or whatever color thread would match whatever dresses they were wearing. And then I would line it with a beautiful silk or satin. Now, if I were using it as an evening bag for that particular occasion, I might do something like use a black thread and then embellish it with sparkly red beads and line it with a beautiful velvet. So many things you can do with this. But for my uses, I am just going to make it into a wonderful little gift bag and or makeup bag. And for that, linen is perfect for my needs. My name is Sig, and what a pleasure it is to have you with me at this time today. It's your interest and support that allows me to contribute new content and weekly videos. Help us all grow together by tapping that subscribe bar, notification bell, and the like button. I look forward to your comments and always value your feedback. Now let's get started. This project, you're going to need a size 10 crochet thread. I happen to be using Aunt Lydia's in this kind of this light mossy green. You are certainly welcome to use any color that you choose to use that works for you. I am also going to need beads. I'm going to need 264 beads for the actual bag itself. And then depending on how you want to embellish the end of your drawstring will depend on how many additional beads you will need to do that with. Also, this box of beads here is a kind of a variety box. I got it really cheap. You can see it was like $2.50. And it was just a bunch of loose beads. They're different sizes, but all kind of the same color. And I got them at a discount. And that works for me because I sort of like the idea of it giving my fabric a little different texture. So you can certainly use any glass beads that you like, in any color that you like. However, you're going to want to keep them between 3mm and 6mm in size. You don't want to go any bigger than that, and you're not really going to be able to go much smaller than that either, because your thread will most likely not be able to fit through the hole. So just keep that in mind. Again, 3mm to 6mm beads. Also, I'm using a number 2 steel hook or a 1.5mm steel hook for this particular project. I've got my scissors. I'm also going to want some fabric. Now this is completely optional with regards to the lining of the bag. I think you're going to want the lining just because the bag itself is so lacy. But again, that's entirely up to you. But in this video, I'm going to definitely show you how to make this lining. So you're going to want your matching fabric. I happen to have some spare linen fabric lying around, so I'm just going to use that. If you had any cotton, really any kind of fabric, I'm going to show you how to make this liner further on in the video, but I'm going to show you how to make it. Either if you're going to sew it by hand, so you're not going to have a sewing machine if you don't want to, or if you do have a sewing machine and you'd rather sew it by machine, we'll walk you through that process too. It's really easy. Both ways are basically the same. One's just done by machine and the other one's just done by hand. Also, you're going to want to have a largest sewing needle, right? It's not quite as big as a tapestry needle, but it's not quite as small as, oh, let's say a quilting needle. So this is a good size because I can thread my crochet thread in this needle, and I can use this needle to weave in my ends. And then I can also use this particular needle to hand sew my lining. So now before we actually begin crocheting, you're going to want to string 264 of your beads onto your crochet thread. The very first thing you're going to want to do is chain 9. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to join in a circle. So now we're going to begin round 1. And in round 1, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to chain 3. And that's going to count as my first double crochet. And then I'm going to continue to crochet a double crochet 19 times in this ring. So 1, 2, 3, 17, 18, and 19. Next, I'm going to join in the third chain of that first chain 3 stitch that we made. I'm going to slip stitch in there. And then I'm going to begin round 2. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. So with round 1, we ended with 20 stitches. And for round 2, we want to do 1 double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. And then for each stitch after that, we want to do 2 double crochets. So that will have us end with a count of 40 double crochets. Just as a quick note, as we continue to work, we're going to need to push the beads back along the thread as we go, because we want to use the thread, but until we need the beads, we're just going to have to keep moving them back so that we have our length of thread to work with. So now once you've completed round 2, again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to join in that third chain of the 3 chain stitch that we started round 2 row in. We're going to join that with a slip stitch. And then going to chain 3 to begin our round 3. Now for round 3, we're going to want to double crochet in the same stitch. And then we're going to want to double crochet 3 times in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. And then in the next stitch, we're going to want to place 2 double crochets. So the pattern's going to be a double crochet in 3 stitches. And then in the 4th stitch, or the stitch after the 3 stitches, we're going to place 2 double crochets into that stitch. So it's going to be 1, 2, and 3. And then the next stitch, we're going to place 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And we're going to continue that same pattern all the way around, round 3. And we will end with a total of 50 stitches. And once we've completed our 50 stitches for round 3, again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to join into that third stitch of the 3 chain stitch we started with. And then we're going to chain 3. And then again, going to double crochet in that same stitch. And then I'm going to double crochet 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then that next stitch, I'm going to make 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And then again, I'm going to double crochet 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then in the stitch after that, I'm going to do 2 double crochets. So 1 and 2. And I'm going to continue to do that all the way around. And for round 4, that will have me end with a total count of 60 stitches. And once you've completed round 4, with a total of 60 stitches. Again, you're going to go ahead and slip stitch in that third chain of the 3 chain stitch you started round 4 with, and we're going to chain 3. And just like round 4, for round 5, we're going to go ahead and double crochet once in the same stitch. And then we're going to double crochet 4 double crochets in the following stitches. And then in the next stitch, we're going to do 2 double crochets in the same stitch. And we're going to continue that pattern, that same pattern, for round 5. And for round 5, you should end up with a total of 72 stitches. Once you've completed round 5, you're going to go ahead and slip stitch. Basically, you're joining in that third stitch, that third chain in the 3 chain stitch, the first one that you made in the round 5 row. And we're going to move on to round 6. And for round 6, we're going to go ahead and chain 3. And just as with round 4 and round 5, we're going to double crochet in the same stitch. And we are also going to double crochet 4 stitches and then make 2 double crochets in the next stitch. Double crochet 4 stitches and then 2 double crochets in the stitch after that. And we're going to continue to do that all the way around round 6, and we should end with a total of 86 stitches. Now that I've completed my 86 stitches for round 6, again, in that third chain of the 3 chain stitch that we started at the beginning of this round, I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch, join my work to create my circle. And then we're going to begin round 7. And now we're going to start using beads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain 3. And that gives me my first double crochet, if you will. I'm going to start moving some beads up here. Okay, so after I've chained 3, I'm going to make a chain right over that bead. And then I'm going to skip the next stitch and I'm going to double crochet in the stitch after that. And this is sort of what it should look like. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a chain over that second bead, and then I'm going to skip a stitch, and I'm going to double crochet in the stitch after that. And I'm going to continue to do that all the way around, and by the time I complete my 7th round, I will have 43 of these beads, or these chain 1 spaces in this round. Okay, so now that we've come to the end of our 7th round, again, we should have 43 beads, or in other words, 43 chain 1 spaces in our round. And when we come to our last bead, we just, as we did before, chain over it, and then we're going to join into the 3rd chain of this 3 chain stitch that we started with. We're going to make our slip stitch. Now once again, we're going to go ahead and chain 3. And then again, we're going to do exactly the same thing that we did for round 7. And we're going to do that in round 8. So again, I'm going to take a bead and chain over that bead, and then skip the next stitch. In this case, it's going to be the chain 1 stitch. And then we're going to double crochet right into this next double crochet. You can see right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it again. Chain over that bead, and then double crochet into the next double crochet stitch. And again, I'm going to do this all the way around, and again, we should have exactly 43 of these chain 1 spaces by the time we make it to the other side of our round 8. So now that I've just completed round 8, I've joined there in the 3rd chain of this 3 chain stitch that we began round 8 with, just like we've done previous rows. Now with round 9, we're going to start by making a single chain, and then we're going to do a single crochet right there into that same stitch. And for round 9, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. So we're going to work our hook into the chain 1 right there, and then another single crochet into the double crochet, and then a single crochet right there into that chain stitch, and then another single crochet into the next double crochet. And we're going to continue that until we've completed round 9 and we have 86 stitches. And then for round 10, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet once again in that same stitch. Then I'm going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then in the next stitch, I'm going to single crochet. And then again, I'm going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to skip the next 3 stitches, and I'm going to single crochet in the stitch after those. And then I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to continue to chain 5 and skip 3 stitches. Okay, so now that you have 20 of these 5 chain spaces for your round 10, we're going to do something just a little different because we want 22 loops total. This time we're going to go ahead and we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to just skip 2 and single crochet in the next stitch. And then again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we're going to go ahead and then tie right there into single crochet. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch. Now for round 11, I'm going to chain 3. And then I'm going to place 3 double crochets into this first chain 5 loop space. Like that. And I'm going to chain 3. And I'm going to single crochet in the next 5 chain space. And I'm going to chain 3. And I'm going to place 3 double crochets in the next chain 5 space. Then I'm going to chain 3. And then I'm going to put a single crochet in the next chain 5 space. So this is what we're going to continue to do all the way around until we've completed round 11. Now here at the end of round 11, I have just completed my 11th cluster of double crochets. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain 3, and then I'm going to single crochet into the last 5 chain space, and then I'm going to chain 3 again, and then I'm going to join into the 3rd chain of the 3 chain stitch that we began round 11 with. Next I'll need to chain 1 and then place a single crochet in that same stitch. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 5. And this will begin my round 12. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to single crochet in the next chain 3 space. And then I'm going to chain 5. And then a single crochet in the next chain 3 space. I'm going to continue just like this all the way around. I'm going to chain 5. And then single crochet in the next chain 3 space. And I'll meet you back here at the end of round 12. And at the end of round 12, we're going to join into that first single crochet. So for round 13, we've chained 6. I'm going to go ahead and single crochet in that first 5 chain space. And I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to do 3 double crochets in the next 5 chain space. Then I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to single crochet in the next 5 chain space. And then chain 3, and again I'm going to do 3 double crochets in this next 5 chain space. And then I'm going to continue that pattern all the way around once again. Now for round 13, when I've finished my last 3 double crochet cluster, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to join right into that 3rd chain of the 6 chain stitch that we started. And it should look something like this so far. I'm going to go ahead and chain 1. And then make a single crochet right there in that same stitch. And I'm going to chain 5. And I'm going to skip the first chain 3 space, and I'm going to single crochet into the next chain 3 space. I'm going to chain 5. I'm going to single crochet in the next chain 3 space. And I'm going to chain 5. And then I'm going to single crochet in the next chain 3 space. I'm going to continue that all the way around. Chain 5. And then single crochet in the next chain 3 space. And when you've finished this round, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie right into that single crochet. I'm going to join. Then we're going to single crochet 4 in the chain 5 space. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we're going to single crochet in the next chain 5 space. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to continue just like that. We're going to continue to single crochet 4 single crochets in each of the chain 5 spaces. So at the ending of round 15, you should have 88 stitches total. And then once you've joined, you're going to go ahead and you're going to chain 3. And we're now going to begin round 16. Now for each single crochet of round 16, we're going to make a double crochet in that. And this chain 3, that counts as our first double crochet. So basically we're going to have 88 double crochets for the completion of round 16. Now we're going to join there in the 3rd chain of that 3 chain stitch there at the beginning of round 16, and we're going to move on to round 17. So for round 17, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to chain 3, and then I'm going to slide my bead down, and I am going to chain stitch over it. Then I'm going to skip the next stitch, and then I'm going to double crochet in the stitch after that. And then again, you go ahead, I'm going to slide my bead down, and then I'm going to chain over that bead. I'm going to skip the next stitch, and then I'm going to double crochet in the stitch after that. And once you've got your 44 chain 1 spaces, go ahead and join in that 3rd chain of the 3 chain stitch that we started round 17 with. And then for round 18, we're going to chain 3, and we're going to do exactly the same thing that we did for round 17. We're just going to repeat round 17. So I will meet you back here when we have completed round 18, and we also end up with 44 single, or I should say chain 1 spaces. Okay, so now at the completion of row 18, your piece should look something like this. You now have 2 sets or 4 rows of beads completed, and so you don't have too many more beads hanging off of your thread, so things should be a little easier going from here on in terms of fiddliness. Next, for round 19, we're simply going to chain 1 after we've joined in that 3rd stitch of the 3 chain stitch, and then we're going to go ahead and single crochet in that same stitch. And in the next 87 stitches, we are also going to single crochet and then join when we are finished with that, for a total of 88 single crochets. So now we've just finished row 19. I have 88 single crochets, and I've joined in the very first single crochet. And now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet in that same stitch. Next I'm going to chain 5. I'm going to skip 3 stitches, and I'm going to single crochet in the next stitch. Again, I'm going to chain 5. I'm going to skip 3 stitches, and then I'm going to single crochet in the next stitch. And I'm going to continue to do that all the way around. And what that will leave me with is 22 of these chain 5 spaces. So now that we've finished round 20, and I've joined in that first single crochet, I'm going to begin 21. Except rounds 21 through 29 are simply going to be a straight repeat of rounds 11 through 19. Now, if you're like me, you'd have to go back to an earlier part of the video and start watching from rounds 11 through 19 again. For those of you who are a little more visual and need a little more help understanding exactly what it is I'm talking about. So right here, from this orange marker to this orange marker are rounds 11 through 19, and we've already completed those. And then rounds 20 was a little different than, oh, let's say round 10, right? They're very similar, but they were different enough so that they couldn't be repeated, right? You couldn't repeat round 10 and round 20. It wasn't going to work. So round 20 is a little different, right? And this is the round we just finished. Now from rounds 21 to 29, it's exactly the same steps as we took from rounds 11 through rounds 19. So I'm going to go ahead and let you continue on, as I'm going to continue on doing rounds 21 through 29, and then I'll meet you back here after we've completed rounds 29. Or after we've completed round 19 for the second time at this point. Okay, we'll see you back here in just a few minutes, video time. Real life time, who knows how long. A few minutes, a couple of days, it all depends on what speed you work at. Anyways, I'll see you back here in just a couple of minutes. So now that we've completed round 29, or 21 through 29, you can see right here where I've joined round 29, which was single crochets. And I joined in preparation for round 30. I brought this other bag here just to show you. So where you see this orange marker, this would also be round 29. One other thing that I'd like to also touch on is you may have a few beads left on your thread, and that's fine. I gave you a few extra beads, or indicated for you to put a few extra beads onto your cord. You know, for a couple of reasons. You know, one, if you happen to miscount for some strange reason, then this assures that you'll have all the beads you still need, because there's nothing more frustrating than realizing you don't have enough beads to complete your process, your project, and then you have to cut the thread and put new beads on and tie a knot and have a knot in a place where you otherwise wouldn't have or want a knot in your lace work. Second, sometimes the beads you're using, for whatever reason, break. 1 or 2 beads break. Or maybe not in this particular situation, but sometimes in a beading situation, you find that you put the wrong bead on with your other beads, and so you need to actually break that one off yourself. This allows you to have a couple more as a backup, simply. So now that we've completed round 29, we're going to move on to round 30. And for round 30, we're just going to chain 3. and then simply a double crochet in each of the remaining stitches. So you'll have 87 more stitches to go in order to complete round 30. Now once you've finished round 30 and you have a total of 88 double crochets on your round, or 88 stitches I should say, because this chain 3 really takes the place of a double crochet as well, so we'll just say 88 stitches. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to join in that third chain, and then I'm going to go ahead and chain 3 more plus 1, so I'm going to chain 4. And for this round 31, we're going to skip the next stitch and we're going to double crochet in the stitch after that. Then we're going to chain 1 and we're going to skip a stitch and double crochet in the chain after that. Basically what we're doing here is creating the eyelet for our drawstring. So again, chain 1, skip a stitch, and double crochet in the next stitch. And you're going to continue to do that all the way around, and then of course join in that third stitch once you make your way back around. And you should have a total of 44 of these chain 1 spaces, or otherwise known as an eyelet. Okay, so we've completed round 31, and we have 44 eyelets. Now we're moving on to round 32, and in round 32 we're simply going to single crochet in each stitch. So we've already made our join and then chained 1 and single crocheted in the same stitch. So that's basically our first single crochet. Now I'm going to single crochet 87 more and then join, and then after that we will have just one more round left for the actual lace bag itself, and then we'll discuss making the lining and the drawstring cording for our bag. So if you've hung out with me this long, props to you. And I hope that everything is working out great for you. And if it's not, just let me know in the comment section below. Your problem might be a problem that's similar to someone else's problem. And so if I know what that is, I can do my best to try to help you correct. Now that we've finished round 32, and we have a total of 88 single crochets on our round, we're going to join in that very first single crochet. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to skip 2 stitches, and in that next stitch right here I'm going to make a double crochet, and then I'm going to make 5 more double crochets in that stitch, that same stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that gives me a total of 6 double crochets in that stitch. Then I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches and I'm going to single crochet in the stitch after that. Basically we're making a scalloped edge on our bag. Then I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches and I'm going to double crochet in the stitch after that. So I don't know if you can see that, yeah? And I'm going to double crochet 5 more in this same space, basically making it a total of 6 double crochets in that same spot. And skip the next 2 stitches and single crochet in the stitch after that. And I'm going to continue this all the way around. And I should ultimately end up with 15 of these scallops. Now when it comes to the drawstring, you can simply just chain a nice long cord. I wouldn't do anything less than 110 stitches, and possibly more depending on how long you want your drawstrings to be. And in this case, you're going to want 2 of them. However, I like my drawstrings to be a little more substantial, and so I do a cording technique. I have no idea what the name is. It's just kind of like a, I don't know, almost like a double chain stitch for lack of a better description. And I'll show you how that goes And first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave myself a tail of about 37 inches because I'm going to use all of this in the making of this cording. And then with my other yarn, just as if I were doing a chain stitch, I'm going to begin. So I'm going to tie on like I normally would if I were going to chain anything. And then my length of tail, I'm actually going to wrap it around my hook from left to right, because I'm right-handed. And then I'm going to take the thread that I would normally just crochet with, and I'm going to yarn over. And then I'm going to pull that yarn through both of those loops, right? So I'm going to make I already have one loop on the hook, and I'm going to take my tail and I'm going to take it over my hook going into a rightward direction. And then I'm going to take my thread that I would normally crochet with and yarn over. And then I'm going to pull that yarn through both of the loops. Again, take my tail and I'm going to bring it over my hook. And then I'm going to take my regular yarn, my thread, and I'm going to pull it through the two loops that are on my hook right now. I'll show you here a few times. Now, if any of you happens to know what this cord is actually called, let us all know in the comments below. I would be curious. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to crochet just like that for the duration of the tail length. So when I've used up all this tail, then I know that I'm at about the right length of drawstring that I want to have for my pouch, for my bag. So when you're finished with it, it should look something like this. And I think it makes a perfect substantial cording for something like lace work. It's not too bulky, but it has some strength to it. Okay, now that we have our drawstrings made, and we have two of them, we're going to go ahead and set them aside. And we'll get to them here in just a little bit. Next, I'm going to talk about the lining. So what you need for the lining is you're going to need 2 circles cut out of the fabric that you're using for your lining. And how you determine the diameter of your circle for your lining is that you would take this circle part before you add the lace on, or, you know, while it's like this, which is fine. And you would just set it down. Give yourself about 1/4 of an inch space between the edge of your bag and the outside edge of where you're going to cut. And you just go ahead and draw that circle all the way around, and then you cut out your 2 pieces. The next thing you're going to want is a single swatch of fabric that's going to be approximately 12 by 10 inches. Fold it in half. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to have the wrong side facing your table, and the side that you want to be seen is going to be facing you. And then you're going to want it to lay where this is your 12 inches horizontally and your 10 inches is vertical. Then you're going to take your fabric and fold it over. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew along this open edge, giving us about 1/4 of an inch allowance. Now, you sew it however works for you, whether you're just going to sew it on a sewing machine or whether you're going to sew it by hand. Now, when I sew something like this by hand, I do a basic running stitch, and then I'll do another running stitch coming back. just because, I mean, I make really small stitches, but I kind of like the idea of the extra reinforcement, especially if it's going to be used as like a makeup bag, and there's going to be a lot of, it's going to have to withstand a lot of abuse. So I really want those seams to hold tight. And then once I've done the running stitch once and then twice, I'm going to just kind of do a basic blanket stitch right here down the edge in order to prevent my fabric from unraveling. That's just added protection. You'll sew it the way you want to, but that's how I'm going to sew it. So once I have that done, I'm going to take one side of my sleeve and I'm going to take one of my circles and I'm going to insert it like so. And then I'm going to sew along the edge, just like I sewed along the long edge of the fabric. And I'm going to sew it completely closed. Now, with my other circle, I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. However, I'm going to leave approximately 1.5 to 2 inches open. And that's the hole, that opening is where I'm going to actually turn my work. Now hang tight and I'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment. Okay, so as you can see that I've sewn my first circle piece of fabric on to my sleeve, where I sewed down the side. And then on this end, this is where I've done pretty much the same thing, except I've left this opening. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn it inside out. Or rather, I should say right side out. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just sew this opening shut. And then we'll move on to the next step. So now everything's sewn together and it's basically an empty cylinder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, along the original fold, I'm just going to tuck in 1/2 of the cylinder to create this bag or sort of inner pouch all by itself. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to line this seam up with the seam of my work. Just kind of get them in the same general location. And then I'm going to hand sew the edging of my lining pouch right up here against the bottom of the eyelets. So I'm going to sew right in here and I'm going to basically tack it in or whip stitch it. I will probably do a little bit of a whip stitch, but a hidden whip stitch. Now you may have a different technique on how you want to sew that, and that's fine. Okay, so now you can see what the bag looks like once the lining is all sewn in. And then the drawstrings placed on with some matching beads at the ends. So I'm really happy that we were able to spend this time with each other today. But now's the time for me to say goodbye. So until I see all you wonderful and creative fiber artists again, stay crafty, stay amazing. Bye-bye now.